selling drugs. Got my charge. I was charged and convicted of conspiracy to delivering over 650 grams of cocaine. So someone caught a case, uh, set us up, set myself up, my co-conspirator up with the police, and to live without any constraints, without anyone telling me what to do. I am becoming my own person. I want to travel. I want to live. I want to make my family proud of me. That's first and foremost. I said I want to make them proud of me. So I took each small step was a win.
All right, welcome back, Nightmare Success Internet listeners. This is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Folks, don't forget to follow the show. It helps. Share it out. Share it out if you like it. Hit that subscribe button, like, comment. All those things really help the show. Uh, I've got an interesting guest because I always think it's an interesting episode when you've got somebody who has gone through a journey where they were told they have life in prison without parole. And, how do you get your mind around that? And I've got Erik Burgess here with me, and he had, in fact, I ran into something that was online, and it was called the Returning Citizens. It was hosted by Google, and it really caught my attention on just how he was talking about your mindset and what you got to do, and keep yourself, present, and don't lose yourself, and all these different things that are so important, not just when you're going to prison, just in general in life. And I can't wait to jump into all that. He went from 91 to 2009, 18 years, and he's gotten out, gotten back into society. We're going to talk about that too, because reentry isn't easy. It's just about as hard as anything else you can go through, because you've got to figure out how you're going to readjust back into life with this thing that's tattooed on your forehead for the rest of your life. But you still got to step forward. Before we jump into all that and unpack all that, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Auto Plaza Direct, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car. Then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They are your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge. The new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Erik, how are you doing?
Wonderful, great, blessed, honored to be on your show.
Well, it's great to have you. I'm glad you made the time to do it. I do think it's always interesting because I've got a lot of different people. We're in season 4 here, but I always think it's interesting to have somebody on that went through what you went through, because it's different than you and I talked about this right before we got on. The difference. I got sentenced, to 5 years. There's an expiration point to those things, but when somebody gets sentenced to life in prison without parole, and I was listening to another podcast that you were on, and you were talking about you never considered that that's really what it was. You always felt like you were going home, and you stayed with that. And obviously you did go home because you're on this podcast today.
Exactly.
And it actually worked out that it wasn't life without parole. But what would have happened if you had just, put your head in the sand and given up on life? And, there's a good chance maybe you still would be in, just because everything and opportunities would pass by you. Before we get into that, though, Erik, take us back a little bit into where you were growing up, parents, siblings. Where was all that with little Erik Burgess?
I grew up, my grandparents had raised me. I grew up in a very loving home. Grandfather was hardworking. He instilled that in me as well. I have 2 sisters. Unfortunately, one passed about 5 years ago, so I have another sister. Her and I are very close. Grew up, education was very important, in my household. So I knew that from the start. I just got caught up, chasing the easy money. I said, why? Why I ain't mind working. I work 3 jobs now, so I didn't mind working. I said, well, why should I work just as hard when I can just sit back and make this easy money as I thought?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, and you probably were around a lot of people that were older than you that were doing that, and it looked like something that, hey, I could probably do that too.
right, just gravitating, towards that lifestyle. I wasn't a flashy or flamboyant type of individual, so I really wanted, as we call it in the streets, low key. I wanted
Yeah.
to be incognito or low key as well. So uh, that didn't pan out as well. Unfortunately, someone who caught a case uh, set us up. Set myself up and my co-conspirator up with the police, and greed got me as well. I wasn't out here really trying to hurt anyone, even at my parole office, parole hearing, even the parole when I had my public hearing, and the guy said, where was the weapon? And I said, as you see in these documents, there was no weapon out. And they had that stigma that all drug dealers are violent.
Right.
Now, I understand, that's his point of view. I understand his perception because they feel all drug dealers are violent. I understand that that's the stigma that we have. And, for some it's true, but for some it's not. So, as I told him, I said, excuse me, sir, but as you see in the documents, there was no weapons, at all. Only thing I got caught with, was some drugs. He said, no, it had to be a weapon. I said, but fortunately, it wasn't any weapons. So I didn't consider myself a violent type of individual. I consider myself a dreamer that turned into a nightmare.
Yeah. The dream turned into a nightmare. And I know, I think you had maybe a couple of years before you got off on probation, but I'm curious when they hit you on this one and it was, it was snitched out, and I'm not sure how they came at you. Did they was it came to your place and arrested
Okay.
you, or how did
It,
it
it
come
was
down?
it was in the Wendy's parking lot, and I felt something. I felt something. I think that was God talking to me because I felt something. A friend of mine, he was over there counting the money, or whatever, but I felt something because I made a phone call, and it just didn't feel right. It's didn't. I had that was like you said, that intuition.
The
Sometimes
feeling,
you can
yeah.
just feel something that's not, but you just go ahead and do it anyway because my friend was involved and things of that nature. But if I just would have followed my first mind, but everything happened for a reason. If I would have followed my first mind and left, I could have ended up staying in that type of business. I could have ended up dead or whatever,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So I think everything happened for a reason. We said where there's pain, there's purpose.
Yeah.
So me becoming incarcerated, uh, it could have saved my life. It could
Well,
have
did
saved my life.
you yeah, it could have saved your life. I
Right,
mean, you never know what happens with the fork in the road
right.
when things happen. When they took you and you know that you've been hit with this, did you have any idea what the ramifications could be for being charged and the penalty for
Not at
uh,
all.
a
I would have had a
mandatory?
different. I would have had a different mindset. Not at all. But you saw ignorance to the laws. No excuse and no reason. So um, I was unaware and oblivious to the penalty that carries. I'm quite natural. A lot of some people are some people may know, but I think a lot of people in general don't know the ramification. They just know it's against the law. You know
Yeah,
that's just like, you have some doctors that sell. Uh,
prescription drugs.
right, prescriptions or things that cheap Medicaid and whatever the case may be. Something they may not know the pen, but they know what they're doing is wrong. So that's all that's all it takes. If you know what you're doing is wrong, no, it is wrong. So there's no excuse or reason, you know, uh, for you to try to even understand the penalty. You just know it's wrong. So,
So when you get into that situation, how long did it take from the time you got that arrest? And I'm assuming, did you go to trial?
no, fortunately, we played no contest. Was almost like I think it was a strategy because my lawyer said it went by. Unfortunately, you basically in a predominantly all white county. You a
Yeah.
black man coming across, in Detroit or whatever, you're gonna get found guilty. So I think it was a kind of a I didn't agree with it, but I didn't know anything about the law as well. So I pled no contest, and that's equivalent to like pleading guilty, So I think we tried to raise ineffective assistance counsel and things, but they shot that, that was nullified and denied, in the Court of Appeals with that issue as well. So that's
How long did that process take for Eric?
it took a few
Did it?
years. But you know how Court of Appeals, it always take a while. You got to fill out a habeas corpus and things of that nature. So it took a while. Went to Michigan Supreme Court. They shot, they denied it as well.
So you get taken, and you said you went to 4 different places. Walk me through the first place you went on that first day.
It's called Jackson. So the big house, what they call Jackson, is the big house. That's where you go through quarantine. Depends on your age. I think I was like 26, maybe 27 at the time.
Yeah.
Somewhere around about 26, about to turn 27. So that's quarantine. And we call it behind the wall. That's what they call Jackson. That's the nickname, behind the wall on Cooper Street. And that's where majority of the guys go. Once they come in, depends on how much time. The guys had 30 years. The guys had life without no parolable life, non-parolable life, which I had, for selling drugs. I was charged and convicted of conspiracy to delivering over 650 grams of cocaine. So they was calling it 650 drug life of law at that particular time. But now, since the law has changed and been modified, I think you get about maybe 4 or 5 years for the same charge.
But at that time, before it was changed, the mandatory was
mandatory life without no parole.
Yeah. Wow.
I could say one thing, during the bond hearing, because I was out on bond for a couple of years as well. And the judge was like, judge told the prosecutor, well, I didn't let murders and rapists go, out on bond. So, these guys here, like they said, wasn't no weapon involved. They just had drugs. I guess he was a proponent for it. I don't think he believed that the law has been that harsh and cruel, because we got back on cruel and unusual punishment. So I think the judge already had his belief was that the penalty shouldn't be that harsh. But
right.
His hands were kind of tied, but he did give us a bond as well.
What went through your mind when they came down with that sentence? It was life without parole. What goes through somebody's mind?
It's hard. It's even hard to describe what goes through your mind at that time. It's like you've been driving and maybe just hit some black ice or something like that, and you start spinning around or something.
Yeah.
You be like, what? How you react? You don't. You really can't describe the reaction or the thought process until you're in that situation. Because no one would understand. I was like, well, I know I can't. I didn't want to become distraught. I didn't want to become despondent, because my family was there, and your family always feed off your emotion as well. So I'd always had to be upbeat, had to be positive. Even sometimes I didn't want to be, but that's how my mindset. I just trained my mind. I got incarcerated. I became active. Went to law library, worked on my case. I got, always stayed employed. So I kept busy, which it helped me, it assisted me once I got out for my transition by developing work ethics that you never know, that you're going to accumulate or have the ability to even have work ethics once you get in there. Some individuals, they try to commit suicide or things of that nature. They become despondent. They fall into that trap of being in prison.
Was that Eric, like when you first went in, was that your immediate strategy is I'm going to control the things I can control. I'm going to get a good job in here. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to stay busy.
I wasn't going to be institutionalized, as they say.
Yeah.
So I ain't all that nonsense, that negativity. I wasn't involved in. Like I said, I worked on I had life without no parole. I had to get out. I'm trying to work on my case. I'm trying to stay out from that nonsense. I ain't got time for it. I got life with no parole. So I have to get out. My main thing, my main objective, my main goal, my short-term goal, stay out of trouble, stay mentally sharp, always have a plan. So you be prepared. You always got to be prepared regardless of the situation. So I always felt that I was getting out. I mean, I felt it. Just like I felt something was, going to happen during that incident. I always felt that I was going to get out, and I carried myself like I was going to get out. So that's, I carried myself like I know I'm become free. It's going to happen. I don't know when, but I felt it. I mean, I felt it. You feel it. It seemed like I said, it seemed like God is something that's inside of us. You know what I'm saying? With that can tell when something is going to happen, either a negative or a positive situation, how we're going to react to it. But we can feel something, we had that feeling. I think that's just that's God in us for some reason. That's
Yeah.
God talking to us. So like I said, during the time that I got arrested, I felt something was going to happen. Once I got convicted, I felt that I was going to get out.
So your time going in, right when you got in, because, the idea that you're going to be there, but your idea was that you were going to be there forever. Uh, as far as your family and everything around at that time, did you stay plugged into the outside? Because a lot of guys who
Yeah.
get that type of time, they just unplug from everything and they don't want anything to do with anybody. And they become, and I think that's part of how you can get institutionalized too. But
Right.
how
Right.
did you handle that?
I just tried to, because I kept with my family. I had visits, thank God. My family was always there. I'm always making them smile, cracking jokes, or just what, always upbeat,
Upbeat.
always upbeat. I didn't want my family, my grandfather, he was getting old. I didn't want my family to see me become despondent or distraught or disassociated with them or not becoming sociable, being aloof or things of that nature. So, uh, they're gonna respond. They're gonna feed off my emotion. So if they come up there or talk to me and I'm down or in a somber mood or this
Well, it had to be tough.
not sociable and things like that, they gonna feel the same way or they
No,
gonna
and
feel
I was thinking, Eric, it had to be really tough on a mom, dad, grandparents that you got a son or grandson that just got with a nonviolent
right.
crime, drugs, is going to go to prison for life without parole. I mean, I can't even imagine having a.
I know but I figured they never. I know they was going through it mentally, emotionally. I know they felt, but when they came up, I just had to make them feel that hey, I'm all right. I'll be home. Let's not, I understand where I'm at, but let's go ahead and try to enjoy this few hours we have. We try to enjoy these few hours that we have on visit or when I call, hey, what y'all all right? And like I say, I'm keeping them smile. I may say something with a sense of humor, silly or something, just to keep their mind like a positive mindset when they talk to me. Cause I don't want them like, hey, he sound, they get off the phone, probably like, how he sound, how you doing?
Mhm.
He upbeat and things of that nature. So, when I go out, I'm well groomed. When I go on visit things like that, appearance, I like to be well groomed. So, like I said, I like to have a very my appearance during that time. I like to show that regardless of my decision, because it wasn't their fault, because I was properly raised. It was my decision. I told my grandfather it's my decision. So, I had to live with my decision. You didn't do anything wrong. You did everything that you could. I truly appreciate that. And that's because being well groomed, your appearance, all that play a part. I didn't want to go out looking,
Yeah, yeah,
like
no,
I
I get
said,
that.
just like a detached from
Then they
the
worry
world.
even more, right?
Right,
Oh
right.
my God,
You're
Eric's
right.
completely changed. He's
You're
turned
right.
into
Look
prison
at your
Eric.
shade, your hair. Look at your
Yeah,
clothes and all.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So what in that type of situation, and I guess in a state prison, because I was federal, a guy that gets life without parole, are you in a maximum or a medium?
Using the max, they got like level. Depends on how much time you got too. They got max. They got level. They got max and they got level 4. They got level 2 and level 1.
S-
Because when I went home, I still was in a level 2.
Okay.
I never went to level 1 because the type of I still have parolable life. So you can't with excuse me with parolable life you can't go to level 1.
Okay.
It's almost like a camp. So
Right.
I was in level 2 because I had enough time. You got enough time and they give you points and all that. Depends on
Right.
your behavior. So I
Right.
didn't have any points, and my behavior, according to prison policy, was more than efficient.
Okay.
For me, for my security level to to decrease as well.
Were there programs in there like I know a lot of guys like in Missouri here and different places, they can take college courses. Was that
Yeah, I went to
available?
college when I first got there. I did go to college, but they that was eliminated. So I worked in the kitchen, and also I became a GED tutor. Well, what else did I do? I was a porter, and also for the last 3 or 4 years, I got my certification in GIS, was a geographical information system. That's dealing with parcels, how to digitize maps as well. So we had a computer factory, so I worked in there and developed
Huh.
that ability, to digitize maps.
Where did those maps go out to?
What the Department of Natural Resources in
Yeah.
Michigan.
Wow.
hmm
So you guys actually made the maps
Yeah, digitize them.
digitally.
They say we digitize the parcels and maps and using SQL language and things of that nature. So I learned 3D. I didn't do 3D. I just did digitizing maps as well.
What do you think? You know, because I did. You know, it's funny how you count time in prison. You know, I didn't have anywhere close to the time you had. You know, I was sentenced 5 years. You know, I counted time so weirdly. Like, you know, okay, this is I like it was in four phases. You know, it was winter, spring, summer. I've only got three or four more of those, and then, but doing the time the way you did it, did you even think? I almost think it would be overwhelming to to get into thinking of time and time sequences as much as just trying to figure out your routine.
No, I didn't think about time. I mean, like you said, I developed a routine which probably kept me busy.
Yeah.
Kept my mind, kept like I got up in the morning, went to work, right, went to work out. So I was always doing something. I kept my mind occupied where I didn't really have time to think I was doing time.
Right.
Yeah, if you, I didn't have I ain't had time to think about it. I was
Well,
doing
that's the
time.
crazy thing about it. You know, in prison, you know, you have these routines because it feels like it's your control. You know, that's
Right,
why like when they have a lockdown or something, it just blows everybody away because it's like completely out of routine. I can't do this. I can't do that.
right,
But
right.
what? So, Eric, when was it that you started feeling like you might have an opportunity or hope that there was a way that you could get out?
It was an organization called FAM, which Family Against Mandatory Minimum, and they was galvanizing for this law to be changed.
Okay.
So they had a lot of momentum, and they, drafted a bill and went through the process. And
How did you find out about it?
good, just like bad news, good news travel
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah. I get
So
that.
we right. So we had like we had a newsletter called SATO, State Appellate Defender's Office, and they was putting a lot of information in there
Yeah.
as far as this was families doing for the 650 drug life of law, and it was like I said, it's getting a lot of momentum. And everyone who has this type of case, we galvanized it. Our people, our family was going to these meetings and things of that nature. So it's like we had built our own community as well. Everybody who was charged and convicted up under this law, if our family was going, we was like, what they saying, what they doing. So it's looking good. So that's when I
Uh-huh.
start feeling
And
very
how far
hopeful.
along were you in your sentence when that started happening?
Ooh, probably about maybe 14 years,
Wow.
15
Okay.
years, something like 50. Because let me see, I became eligible. I became eligible for parole in 2006. So probably about a year, about two, maybe 14 years, somewhere around there,
So you've
14,
done a
15
lot of
years.
time
Yeah.
and
hmm
and this started becoming something and people started advocating for it. And then
Right.
how long did it take from the time that you found out about it to it actually was a law change that you could come up for
I
parole?
think the law changed like 2006. I think it took a
Okay.
couple of years. I think the law changed about 2006. I became eligible for parole. Maybe the law changed 2005, but I know I became eligible for parole in 2006 because I
What was that
carried.
like? I can't, I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine the mind
Right.
buzz that you're fighting
It's,
for this deal. They
it's
change the law. All of a sudden, it goes from life without parole that you have a parole hearing. Uh, is it like is the parole hearing like in the movies where the four people are sitting in there and you go sit down in the chair like Red it's Shawshank or what's it
no, it's
like?
like not too far from because I I'd have because I had excuse me because I had life. I had to have a public hearing.
Okay.
So it was about three or four, it was about maybe five members of the parole board there.
Okay.
I had a parole board member come see me. You know, they ask you questions, things of that nature, and the format, what happened. I told the lady what happened. My grandfather, he represented me. She said, "You gonna do this to your grandfather?" And she said something. She said two things. She said, "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because your grandfather needs you." Right. I knew right then, like I'm getting. I
That
was
was
saying, you do it
good.
for the devil, though. Too.
That was good.
And then she said, "What made you do this?" You know, I told her, I explained my situation to her. You know why? And she was like, "Don't you know that people sell drugs? They're telling their own mother, set their own mother up just to get out." You know, that's what the parole. You know, that's what she said. And she said, once you get this chance, you know, never come back. And I said, you ain't got to worry. You got to worry about
Right.
that.
That's not what I'm thinking
At
about
all.
doing.
I said, she should have told you be incarcerated before I
Yeah. So, Erik, so you go to this parole hearing, public hearing, you do it, and then like how long do you have to wait to hear what I mean, this is like gigantic news.
Man, I think I had my public hearing like maybe was it January? Maybe about a couple months.
You waited a
That's
couple of months.
yeah.
And then how do you
Like
find out?
they send you a letter. They send you a letter though. You've been granted parole. This is your date. I think I got my date like February. I got the day I was going home. February. I think like February. I got the date.
Okay.
But you got to, and then so they send my paper. You going home March 31st. I told my family they're like what? Yeah, March
It just
31st.
had to be a crazy I can't quite imagine that, Erik, as far as going into prison. You never lost hope with it. You always believed you were going home, but there was a law that said you couldn't. The law changes. You go to a parole hearing. You get the letter that says you're going to go home. What's going through your mind?
Man, elation, relief, blessed,
Yeah,
fortunate, because
yeah,
it's because I mean you meet a lot of good guys, you meet a lot of guys who appear to be good, I
yeah,
think that change their life, that's sincere,
yeah,
that made them never get out.
yeah.
So I mean, you develop almost like
It's a
a
family.
family connect. That's almost becoming your family as well
Yeah, I
because
mean, you
y'all have a
spent
lot.
14 years with them.
Right, right. You have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And then you be, some guys, they done lost parents, while and then some
Hmm.
guys. I had a cellmate of mine. While we was in there, his son got killed. I mean,
Yeah, you
this,
lean on each other.
yeah, you link right for that
Yeah.
support, man. So, um,
Yeah,
it's
I
really
remember there was a time. This is a nice guy. I think he was only like 6 months from getting out, and his son committed suicide. And it was just like, that was his big thing that he was going home to. And it was just devastating to him. And
right.
I felt like, that feeling that having somebody die while you're in prison, I can't imagine. But having, a son or daughter that you think you're going back to, but there's a whole group of guys, just tried to, walk him through so he didn't do something to himself because he just felt like the world was over.
Exactly.
But I think that's one of the saddest things to see, that or women showing up with their divorce papers where the guys think he's going to have this great visit. And, those are sad too. But there's definitely what do you think you were? I should ask you. What do you think you were? What were the toughest days for you in prison?
Man, every
Because
day.
they're not all bad, but there are tough days.
Every day tough if you let it be tough.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on your mindset.
right.
You can have tough, you can have a tough days right now. Every day can be tough out here in the free world if you let it.
Yeah,
Right, right. So you can't escape prison.
nope,
Right, and just like out here, you can't escape life.
no,
So it depends on your reaction because every day out here can be tough for you.
Right.
Yep, just like in prison. Every day in prison can be tough if you let it.
Right.
So,
If you let it
it,
take you,
right,
unless you take it to that,
exactly.
I so agree with that, because I kind of had a mind hack that I did with my calendar, that I would, my daughter made me a calendar every year, and it was, I would write in the box every night my win for the day. And, like people who haven't been to prison, like, hey, Cassidy, how did you have a win for the day in prison? Well, there's ways. I mean, maybe I got forklift certified that I don't know, but I put a win for the day. But if I had a bad day, I would write in that box that I had a bad day. But my mind hack was is I wouldn't let myself fill in 2 boxes of bad, because I was afraid that 2 boxes of bad could become a week, could become a month, could become a
Exactly.
year, and then I
You,
become this institutionalized monster that I don't even know what that is. But I honestly kept myself, if I filled in that box, that I went to that next box and I had to find something that day that brought me back up.
exactly.
And I think when I was listening to you talk, you were actually talking on your own podcast. I think it was your first episode, and you were talking about how you have to be the one that's in control of how you handle things, because you can either handle it in a negative way or a positive way, and how you do that is really a big way of how you're going to get through,
Exactly.
good or bad.
Is that good or bad? Your reaction. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why. And a lot of people, even when I'm at work, and they say you don't never complain. They say like you don't never complain about nothing because you don't know my story. And
yeah,
right,
yeah.
because I'm humble enough. I've been, through a very
It's very
insurmountable
humbling.
journey that that changed my life. So I mean, why complain? The old story goes, why I go now and say you see a guy without no shoes, but you just think about the guy without no legs.
Right.
So,
Can always be worse.
right,
Can
yep.
always be worse.
Y'all can always can be worse. Always
S-
can be worse.
So, Eric, you got out, and it's been 18 years. 18 years. I thought a lot had changed for me, and I actually had only been gone, 3 years,
Right.
and 18 years walking out. Like, what did life look? I always think it was like going from, black and white to color. 18 years? What was that like, walking back out into the world?
Um,
And who
this
did you
is
walk out to? Who was on the other side of that?
my grandfather, my sister, my cousin. We went out there. I had a cell phone when I got out, even though I was talking loud in the restaurant. So they said I was talking too loud. I said, I don't care. I get used to it.
Yeah.
It was. I don't
Did you
know. I
feel
mean,
overwhelmed? Did it feel like you had everything coming at you, or did you feel like, no, I'm back in, I'm okay,
I
I'm all
think
right?
I think I said I was all right, man.
Okay.
I think I said I was all right because them visits, and
Yeah, kept you
I
plugged
was
in.
right visits and had that connection with
Yep.
family. I mean,
Yeah.
so it plays a huge and integral part in your transition. I was reading. I was
What do
reading
you
a lot.
think? What do you think is the thing that changed the most after 18 years? Because I mean, you see things on TV, you stay plugged in with your visits, but
But
walking back out.
but you know what changed my perception. That's what
Okay.
changed the most. My perception.
Okay.
It's how you perceive it's how your world is how you perceive it.
Right.
Right. Your perception is how you perceive the world. So how I perceive everything was like, I'm out here now. So I had a plan. And I had a plan. I gotta say give me 1 minute. I'm plug my laptop up. They said my battery.
Yeah. We can't have your battery go out, Eric.
So I had a plan.
Yeah.
I know I was going to school.
Okay.
I know I was going to work. So my perception um, was my compass to how everything was overwhelming and things that it well because it seemed like I guess everything that I accomplished in there, the soft skills
Yeah.
by work and the things that I had a routine. It seemed like so I was kind of doing things uh that people do in society, people do in society. So it really wasn't like my transition wasn't really like over, overwhelming because I already was acclimated to some of the things society was already and still I had a system. I was working, reading and
Mm-hmm.
things, the normal things that life, brings us, in society. So it wasn't really a huge transition. I just had to learn how to, adapt to, maybe certain things that, like maybe work or drive and anything like, driving. I'm just, there's certain things that I
Yeah.
wasn't doing. I had to do, but it wasn't nothing like, uh, I wasn't scared to go. I wasn't apprehensive or had anxiety to go in public, anything like that. I've
Yeah.
been around 1,000 people, hundreds of people. I wasn't afraid to go in a classroom because I was already, going to school, taking, getting
Uh-huh.
certified or something.
Right.
So I had the, the wherewithal or the ability or the perception of how to, just to navigate and, become involved in, in certain positive things. So
Right.
it wasn't like I said, what people, I think people put them, that's how people become so in tune or so defensive when they, become, I think we sometimes we cause that trauma on ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Self, become
Cause our own
self
stress.
trauma that,
Yeah.
because now you afraid, it almost become an institute. You're afraid to do this. You're afraid to live. You're afraid to go here. You're afraid to go there. You're kind of apprehensive about talking to people. But this our
Yeah.
society. This our society is now. This you have to learn. You have to learn how to adapt. And
Yeah.
sometimes they don't teach us that. Learn how to adapt to back to society. I think sometimes that's why individuals, go back to the same destructive behavior as well because they don't know how to adapt. They don't know how to become vulnerable.
Right.
So it's certain things that I do now, like my wife says, sometimes I'm selfish with my time. And that's one thing that I'm trying to get up because you're so used to just sometimes being alone while you're incarcerated. You don't feel that you're selfish. That's just you being alone. She was like, well, sometimes you're selfish with your time. And sometimes I had to catch myself and apologize to her because
Yeah.
I understand what she's saying. And
Yeah.
I'm trying. It's not. I told her what I'm doing is not intentionally. Sometimes I'm just used to being, sometimes just used to being by yourself. It's
Sure.
peaceful,
Yeah.
but you can't be like that when you're in a relationship as well. So that's something I'm still working on as well. That's
Where
kind
did the wife come into play, Eric?
of,
Was
ooh,
that before,
no,
in, or
uh,
after?
after we've
Okay.
been married. Well, I met her 2011, July 4th,
Okay.
2011. And when I told her I was incarcerated, she like hung up the phone. She said, "You did how much time?" She said, "What you do? Kill someone?" I said, "No, I'm just being straight up.
Yeah.
I'm being real with you. This is what happened and things of that nature." And she called her brother because I met her through her brother. She said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he's a good guy. He just got caught up in the streets." And she gave me a chance, and
To give it
I
another
proved,
chance.
I proved myself because I was, she's like, "Can we go out?" I said, "I can't go out of town. We can go somewhere in Michigan, but I can't go out of town. I can't go out of town." The first place we went, I told her, I promised. First place we went, we gonna go. We gonna go out the country. So we went to Dominican. I think my first trip to the Dominican Republic. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We wasn't married at the time, but yeah, we've
So
been together.
that was your first out of Michigan, and gosh
And
knows how long.
man, I've been traveling ever since.
Well, I want to take a break here because when we get back, I want to talk about, first of all, the hardest part of reentry. What your thought is about the hardest part of reentry? You got a bachelor uh,
It's like,
degree in psychology. I want to talk about how and what you want to do with that and what you're doing now. So, before we do that, I know a lot of people who listen to this show probably don't like how they show up online. Many individuals thinks there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation on Google. There's hope. It's called the Discoverability Company, and they can help you. Whether you're building a reputation from scratch, repairing your search results after a negative news story, Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. They're even launching a do it yourself SEO option, a course for individuals who want to take on their search results on their own budget and speed. Listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off the DIY SEO course with coupon code Nightmare Success. And I just want to give a shout out here. The Nightmare Success podcast is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group. It's the world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white-collar criminal justice system. I'm a member of the white-collar support group, and I can tell you this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you've made it through to the other side, this is a great space for you. You can join us on Zoom Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For information, go to prisonus.org. That's prisonus.org. Start here. So, I know having a positive mindset is absolutely essential, obviously, Eric, to get in. But what do you think is the hardest part of getting out in the reentry world, trying to get your sea legs and walking?
It's easy. You, like you said, that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
That's the hardest part. We stand in our own way. Yeah, we stand in our own way. Wisdom is there. We just run from it. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
we stand in our own way. The help is there. We just got to want it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
And be humble enough to take it. Be humble enough to ask for advice.
Exactly.
Be humble enough to ask for help.
Yep.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, we stand in our own way.
And be humble enough to take an opportunity that might just be a stepping stone. That you never know what that job is what could turn into something else. That could turn into something else, and you connect a dot with somebody and network into a better situation.
Exactly.
Those are all things where a lot of people, when they get out, say, well, I can't do that. I would never do that. I'll never do that job. Whereas that could be a job that takes you to something, and somebody you meet, you notice, they notice you, whatever those things can be. You never know.
So I have a thing. What I built for myself, this framework, is a different mindset from I want to I have to. I want to do this, but it's a difference. That contraction, right? I want to do this. I want to go to work, but I have to catch the bus. I want this. I want to go to school, but I want to do this, but it's always, so you gotta change. Like I said, people change that mindset from want to that I have to. I have to do this because this is what it leads to. Now, if you see the difference between I want to and I have to, it's more value than have to doing something than want to do something. Because you can find excuse to not want to do it. Right. I want to go to work, but they only have I got to be up at 4:00 to get to work at 6:00.
Yeah.
Instead of saying,
well, you've been able to get jobs while you're out, but I'm curious. You went and got that Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I worked in the clothing store on the weekends. I think I made like maybe $120 a weekend, something like that. So I'm free, so I know I can get another job. I'm free. I bet my grandfather. He said you ain't not gonna pass the driver. He said, boy, you ain't drove in 20 years. You're not gonna pass the driver. I said, watch. I said, I'll pass. Bet $20 and give me the keys to the car. He gave me the keys to the car and $20.
You're good. What do you think that means? You said you're free. Because we know when we go into prison, freedom's a state of mind.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
It means I'm be able to live my life like the Creator wanted me to. Like they said, life, liberty, and happiness. I'm be able to live without any constraints, without anyone telling me what to do. I am becoming my own person.
Yeah.
Going back to the core of who we are. We wasn't, created to become incarcerated. We were created just to live life abundantly. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, material things wasn't, I wanted to accomplish material things because who don't like nice, especially after being incarcerated, you want this, want that one. I wanted to travel. I wanted to live. I wanted to make my family proud of me. That's first and foremost. I said, I wanted to make you proud of me. So I took each small step was a win. My first job, that was a win for me. My first car, getting a bachelor's degree. All these were small wins. And that's something I wasn't looking for the bigger picture. I was just looking for the first stroke of the painting.
Step at a time. Yeah, step at a time.
So each stroke is like painting a picture. Each stroke builds you up to the
That's a win.
To the final masterpiece. And that's what I was doing. Just one slight stroke at a time. One slight stroke at a time.
Yeah.
That's how I took it. That's how I took it. So, and when I went to school, I didn't know honestly, I didn't have an idea what what I wanted to major in. I just know I wanted to get a degree, and
Yeah.
then I took the test and things, and you know how you introduce yourself in a college class and what brought you here. I told my story, and then I told my story because I think my first test I got a C. And then my professor, like, he said, I see you can do the work and things like that. He said, but just start practice, take notes and things of that nature as well. And I ended up getting A out of class. He said, I think you should major in psychology. And that's what made me, that's what made me go into psychology. You know,
That's why you went into psychology. Is
right.
his
Yeah. I
suggestion?
didn't have an idea what I wanted to, they give you classes out of, he's in the counselor. I said, I think you'd be good at taking a psychology class. And so that's how I became, that's how I got my major, chose my major in psychology. In one class I did, at all the times going to school, I failed one class, and that was psychology statistics, man.
Statistics is tough.
Oh, man, that's the hardest class I ever had in my life, man.
I took political science because there was no math.
Man, psych stats, that's the hardest class I ever had in my life, man. I passed it, but second time didn't put the effort in like I should have by
Yeah.
working, it's kind of hard. And I had to study for it. And the second time, my professor helped me. The second time, I passed it like with a C plus. But matter of fact, I was telling other guys in there, I said, man, this class for me it was hard. I said, you're gonna have to put work in. And I had one guy say, man, if it wasn't for you, Eric, keeping your foot up my rear end, though, I don't think I would.
They wouldn't have made it. Yeah.
He
Helped him
said, yeah,
out.
yeah. He said him and I still, we still talk today. And my professor, him and I talk. Matter of fact, he moved to Washington. I think him and his wife work for what do work the college Gonzaga. I think
Yeah.
Gonzaga is out
Yeah.
there. Yep. So I spoke to him in one of the psychology classes. Hmm.
What do you think? You want to do anything with the psychology degree?
Right now, I've been blessed. I'm a board member of this company called Sank, which is a
Okay.
digital integrated platform, AI data driven
Yeah.
company. This young lady starting for returning citizens,
Okay.
and so I'm kind of
I
using
like that.
I'm starting using my my psychology
Uh-huh.
degree, towards helping her out and things of that nature as well. So she said she appreciate that. Just making an impact because what I think is in value, and what we value is what we put our effort into,
Sure.
regardless of what we're doing. Evidently I value doing wrong. So I didn't value myself. We have to value ourselves first, So whatever you value, that's what you put your effort towards. So if you value
Mhm.
doing foolish stuff, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get foolishness back. If you value
Yeah.
doing something positive and doing something, I didn't value. I mean, because if you honestly out here selling drugs, you don't value anyone. You don't value people. Anything you just see in the money. You don't value
Yeah.
anyone. If you don't value people, I mean, that's life. I mean, that's life 101. If you don't value people, if you don't value your marriage, or you don't value your children, if you don't value yourself, if you're going to work late or whatever, or whatever the case is, you can't get to work on time, or you're not doing your homework in school, you don't value yourself. I
Right.
mean,
It's what you
so
value.
it's not complicated. We make it
Yeah.
complicated. We make
Yeah.
it complicated.
Yeah.
We make it complicated. We are our own worst enemy.
It's true.
Hmm.
Well, if you think about Eric, this whole thing that you've been through, I mean, it's quite a story. What do you think's your greatest takeaway from all this for everybody that's listening out there?
My greatest takeaway is I would like to make an impact and put value on not having someone tell a story I'm telling
Mm.
as a returning citizen. That's the greatest impact we can have. Why we wait to have these symposium or interview the things of that nature instead of being proactive, we reactive, we should all get our story out there regardless of what. We can always, someone else can always learn from us as well.
Hmm.
But we need to start valuing ourselves, like you returning citizen, unfortunately, I'm returning citizen, as many
Hmm.
others. But what can we do to stop this It's a
cycle.
pendulum, right, from swinging, because we all know a lot of people that commit crimes didn't come from broken homes. Like, they
Mhm.
didn't come from broken homes. We just, made a bad or unwise decision that cost us, our freedom. But what can we do for individuals won't become returning citizens?
Mhm.
This thing, if people didn't commit crimes at all, unfortunately, there wasn't no need for prison. And we can have the mindset as well not to commit crimes. But we just need to value ourselves and value ourselves and value each other. And I think you have more people. I think we can give more people insight choosing a different lifestyle. Well,
Yeah.
we don't have to have these podcasts called the Returning Citizen Podcast, Second Chance, Hire. All this stuff is coming forth now. But it was before, even before we got incarcerated. It was what's wrong with just stopping this draconian sentence in this system, man, where we having young men, especially young women, now becoming uh, returning citizens. So that's what I would like to see. More
Yeah.
positive, more positive. We get children like, what made you not? You see all this poverty or these dynamic factors that some of your friends are becoming susceptible to, and what made you not go that route. We start having these children or men or women or whatever. Start interviewing people who haven't became returning citizens and have
Yeah.
them tell because they have a story as well.
Yeah.
What made you not become returning citizen? What made you not start selling drugs? What made you not start uh, robbing people? And then your father may went to prison or your mother or whatever. What made you break the system? What did you
Mhm.
do different that you can tell someone instead of wait till I become returning citizen for me to tell my story. Let's
Yeah.
go on to go on
Well,
some of these.
and I think Eric, the reason why I think your story is important for people to hear, that this podcast goes into 1,100 prisons, state prisons.
Mm,
I think there's a couple of big things that are takeaways that I get out of your stories. One, you you always had hope. You always believed that you were going to go home, and you acted like you were going to go home. And I think it's important for people not to lose that sense of hope that there's always a opportunity for something better. And for any of those people listening to this, uh, you know, a lot of that is just stepping, and a lot
right.
of it is stepping into stuff you don't know. It's the unknowns, and that's what scares people, and that's what gets people institutionalized. Is they stay in
Right.
this ugly routine because that's the ugly thing they know, even though they hate it. That's the thing they're most comfortable with. But what I like about your story is that you, um, each time you never gave up. You kept stepping into it. Even when, I'm sure you and your family and everybody else really went into advocating for that law change. But you kept your, ear to the ground to figure out what was available, what could happen. And I think that's how, you've re-entered, because a lot of people, when they re-enter, um, getting out of prison, and not for the amount of time you did, but they're just so overwhelmed and they give up. And your story is one of never giving up. And I think that's a big, not giving up, keeping hope, looking for opportunities is something that all of us can look at and say, okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to be negative.
Right. And hope is simple. Hope, the acronym is helping other people every day.
Yeah.
If you if I help you, right, you help someone else help me. It just it goes around.
It goes all the way around.
It goes all the way around. 360, helping other
I,
people, right? And then think. You think. I say think. To harbor ignorance negates knowledge. So so them are acronyms I try to live by. Hope, helping other people every day.
yeah.
You know, even at work, I'm a team leader, so I go around and say, "Hey, how your day going? You all right? Everything all right? Anything I can do?" Try to keep a smile on my face. I just don't. I try to. My job is. I'm not there to. I'm not an overseer. I just want to inspire you and encourage you, because it's not all about the job. You may be going through some that we don't even know about. Hey, how you feel today? You all
Yeah.
right? And things of that nature. So I'm a team leader of about 7 to 8 people. So I
Yeah.
just make sure, hey, your day all right? How you doing? and just try to inspire, inspire
Yeah.
them,
Keep
encourage
everybody
them.
up.
Right. So
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, hope, helping other people every day. They say you nice. They say I'm nice or I'm too nice or whatever. Why not? I mean,
Why
you
not?
never know, right? You never know what others are going through. You don't,
No, you
people,
never know.
death in their family or they still come to work. Put it,
Yeah.
trying to put a smile on, trying to come to work. So you never know. Just
You never
like I
know.
said, just instill hope in someone. Try to inspire someone,
Yep.
regardless of what it is. Like you say, have someone bring a smile to someone's face might make a big difference.
Be a better place.
You know.
Erik, man, I appreciate it. And as we're talking about gratitude and all this, I want to thank Homestead Financial, who lets me use this podcast studio. It's got all the fancy lights and equipment here. If you've got home mortgage needs, at Homestead Financial is at Greg Aftiev. He's your guy. He knows everything about it. If you're looking for a book out there, I've got one, Nightmare Success. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Don't forget to, like I said, like this thing up, follow, share it, comments, all those stuff. I really appreciate. If you got time, leave a review on Apple. If you want to know more about what I've got going on, go to brentcassity.com, my website. I spell it wrong. I spell it with a TY, not a DY. And as I used to say when I was sending my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Erik, man, thanks a lot for being here today. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
It's
You're
an
a good
honor. It's an
man.
honor. Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it, man. Nightmare Success, in and out.
All right. Take care.